Sure. I'm Vinod Krishnan, and I'm the CIO and head of e-commerce at Usha International. I've been in this role for about 6 months, and I think I know several of you, so as you said, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I'm Vijay Sethi. I head IT and CSR at Hero MotoCorp.
Thank you. So we have this big noise around real-time enterprise. Everyone is talking about real-time enterprise. Everyone is talking about digital transformation. Everyone is talking about what this can do for businesses and what businesses are actually could be the next phase of evolution for businesses. Now, before we even move forward, I'd like to understand from your perspective on what real-time enterprise means to you and the evolution of real-time enterprise itself. What are some of the driving factors for that? Vinod, if I may start with you.
I think it's no secret that the pace of business and the pace of life has, certainly gone up. And I think, I've felt before that enterprises don't come up with these things, generally on their own. They're driven to this by either the market, either the customer end of the market or the supplier end of the market, or as is happening to us in most cases, both. The second part is actually, some of this thing, I think it was Edmund Hillary, somebody asked him, why do you want to climb Mount Everest? And he said, because it's there. And in many senses with technology now, the challenge is because we can. Now it is actually possible in real time or near real time to actually do things that you could not do before, which is probably the worst reason to do it. But, on the one hand, you have the compelling pool of opportunities that are being created and lost in very short periods of time, and on the other hand, you have some technologies that can actually point you at that. And the coming together of those two is creating that view which says you should have a real-time environment, you should be responding in real time. Not that I agree, as you'll find a little later, but I think that's the drivers that you asked for. I think that is the context.
Mukesh, as I see, I think the need for having a real-time enterprise has been there for ages. Everyone wants to know as to what is happening in the business at kind of real time. So there are good old stories where one used to collect all the daily information via panwalas and all that. So it's not that real-time enterprise from that concept is a new concept. What has changed over last maybe 3, 4, 5 years is that penetration of technology in enterprise has increased a lot. And some of these technologies, especially the mobile technology, has been kind of ubiquitous now that it's there. Every one of us has a computer in our hands. That has ensured that whatever was kind of manual, so you would get that information on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever it may be. But since now everyone is digitally connected, everyone wants to know the entire thing, what is happening to a business, real time. That's the genesis, as I see, for real-time enterprise, that since I'm connected at all times, I'm knowing what is happening in my maybe personal sphere, in my social sphere. So I also want to know what's happening in my business sphere, what is the sale that has happened, what's the production that has happened, how the entire thing is trending. And the key driving force over there has been 2 or 3 things, as I see. One is from a technology perspective, since technology is available, not just the mobile, but also the softwares and other things which enable it. Networking is also, the entire bandwidth and everything is also there. That's one piece. But the second piece, which also is a kind of, as I see, a change in the human behavior. So there's a time when we were comfortable, okay, if you get this information after a few hours, you're okay. But now every 1 minute you'll check up your email, your WhatsApp or this or others, as if you are missing out something. And the same thing is, same urge is happening on the enterprise, that you want to know at all times, at a real time, not all times, but just a real time as to what is happening. So if there's a sale that has happened in Mumbai, what happened, why it happened, how it happened, and then what can I do? So that's the personal urge that is, and that's for the entire society, not for an individual, which has changed. Also, the third thing is, I think as the businesses are becoming much more competitive, now taking from a business perspective, I think as the businesses are becoming much more competitive and various kind of disrupting forces coming into each business is also looking at ways and means to not just to ensure that you have all that profitability and top line, but also in many times you want to survive. That's where you need to know at all times as to what's happening in the business. And that's where focus on real-time enterprise is coming in a big way over the last 2-3 years.
So if I understand what you both said and probably try to paraphrase it in a slightly more, a slightly different language, what I hear from both of you is that number one, the business environment around us is changing really, really fast, which means companies spring up, urge of, always staying connected and wanting to have the information when I want it, rather than getting a report first thing in the morning. I want to know what is happening when I want it.
Correct.
It can be morning, it can be afternoon, it can be in the night when I'm going to bed. So those three, four things, I think I understand that are driving behavior. So let's get down to a little more basics here. What are the elements of a real-time enterprise? What probably are the basic building blocks that an organization needs to put together in order to become a real-time enterprise? Maybe I can start with you this time.
Again, if I go back to building blocks, I go back to basics. What is that I need in a real-time enterprise? First, I think the starting point, and which many of the organizations do miss out on this entire thing, is what is my need? What is that business driver? What is that information that I need on real time? I can't churn the entire ocean and say that, okay, tons of information is available to me at all times. I'll be drowning in that information. So it has to, the first building block is what my business need is, why I need that information, maybe on an instantaneous basis or maybe a hourly basis. Can that information wait? Something else can wait. So the first point is what does a business need? The second is, once you have that, you also need to decide. I'll first take the culture piece or the people piece of it, and then I'll come to technology. As to what do you do with that? Okay, I get all this information on real time, but if my own back-end processes are not even geared up to either take an action on that, even to respond on that, even to give a feedback or act on that, then it's again a waste of time. So we need to have these two things in place, and then comes, okay, once you are clear on this part, then comes the technology which will enable. Do I have technology, whether it's hardware, whether it's software, whether it's mobile, whether it is connectivity, all those things which will ensure that the information is captured at the right point. It's kind of analyzed. You can't again pick up, for example, if I'm picking up the same example of an invoice being generated in Mumbai, I don't want all the details. Maybe there's only one piece of it which I need. So do I have enough softwares and analysis capabilities back in my system which will ensure that you pick up that thing? What happens to that? From that, it maybe goes into my production, maybe it goes into my planning software, whatever. So the entire end-to-end value chain has to be mapped, software enabled, and done in a fashion that you can respond real time back onto the wherever within the organization or outside the organization you have to act on it. So these are the building blocks, but it has to start from what my need is.
It's always hard to follow sit here and answer like this because he's covered pretty much everything. But a couple of points that I want to bring out. The way that I look at it is in two sides. One is really what I call as the reflex actions, which is in real time, you don't want to go to the brain. You want the hand to do what the hand has to do. And sometimes it is just as simple as you are creating an environment where ye hua, ye karo. Where you have that uniformity across your organization where we react in a uniform way. This deal, this has happened, therefore the reaction. And what you want to make sure is that the reaction is adequate and happens, immediately. The other piece which I think a lot of companies really miss, and I think Vijay captured it very well, is that when you have a strategy, it's easy to think because you're responding in the market that you're doing something, but it's like handling your email. In the end, that's, activity that's not necessarily taking you forward from a strategic way. Maybe only one element in that invoice in Mumbai, which is that we stole it from a competitor at the last minute, is relevant for the senior management of that company. But how you get that feedback that how is this playing in my strategy? Is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing to do? That is the key. Because otherwise you run the real risk of running a company like you manage your email. A lot of people feel very comfortable that I've handled all of these crises today, but in the end you realize that you have not done anything against your strategic aims of your company to grow your share or whatever. Thing is, when that information comes that is relevant to that, you need to recognize it, and that in real time needs to come to me. So let me just give an example of perhaps you've done a marketing campaign and you have the next installment of that, and you receive some feedback that that message needs to be corrected. You don't need to receive it from every individual guy who has seen that TV ad in the country. You need a momentum which says that, okay, at this level, at this sample, this is the relevant input, I need to do something now. If I get that feedback in real time, great, I have enough time to rework my message and go back. If I don't, I have missed that opportunity. So I think that those are the two considerations. One is what I do automatically, one is what I do strategically, and you have to cover both.
Interesting. So so what you're both saying is that you need to be able to sense and respond.
Exactly.
So in real time. So it is not just enough to sense in real time and not do anything about that, but sense and respond. So the entire organization needs to be equipped to do both, based on the strategic and some of the more tactical things that we need to do. So earlier both of you mentioned that there are certain things which are available which allows you to do things because it can be done. So digital technologies have actually brought about those kind of levers that now is available at the hands of organization to do things like that. So if digital technologies are the enablers, then can you just explain some of the digital initiatives that you have done in your organizations,
Right.
and or are underway in your organization, which actually propels your organization to become one of those real-time enterprises? I know that it's a work in progress, it's a journey, not a destination,
Right.
but something that if you may want to share. I'll start with you.
Certainly on the sales front, there's a lot of activity that is actually tactical, where decisions have to be made in real time, particularly around pricing, around flexibility in pricing and so on. So a lot of what we're doing on the front end is to actually get the policies right and automate the interpretation of that policy, which is some input comes, quickly or automatically a decision is given, okay, go ahead, no. And that is one facet of a lot of the work that we are trying to do, is push the very clearly understood parts, the policy implemented part down as far as possible to the ground, and even somewhere extending it to our partners, that people can actually throw the ball against the wall and see yes or no and then go ahead with it. At the other end is the advertising thing that I spoke with you about, and the more demand judging kind of scenarios where you're seeing what is offtake and saying, does this correspond with what is my actual demand? What should I do? Should I shift something? Should I change my advertising? Should I change how my supply chain works in order to respond to that? So those are the two ends at which we're obviously engaged. And as you said, it's a journey. You get it right, and then the market readjusts, and then you have to re-optimize it.
Okay. I'll give you two examples. One from sales. So what we have done is all our sales points are digitally connected at all times, and whatever is the offtake, the real retail which happens at each of those comes back right up to our planning guys, and if there's a change in the plan or dispatch schedule that needs to be done, can be done. So that's one part. So that flows from one end, customer end, right up to the planning and the production. So that's one piece. The second piece, which we did maybe around 6-8 months back, was on our supply chain, where we converted the supply chain out of our 4 plants, 3 are already done. We have converted it from a push base to a more of a pull based from an inventory perspective. So we connected all our vendors also and with our entire shop floor. So whatever is the inventory levels of various products, so that entire thing is communicated back onto the vendors, and then you pull in inventory. Because especially for us, it's really not possible to keep huge inventories. So there are some parts for which we just keep 2 hours or even less than that inventory. So it's direct online or direct on the shop floor kind of thing. But how to communicate in the real time back to the suppliers that you just send these and not something else. So that's where, so we've created this entire system right from actual production which is happening, the quality which goes through, and the dispatches. Based on that, we communicate back into the vendors, and it checks up with the inventory levels. So that's a real time integrating at one end with our supply chain. The other example that I wanted to give was on the dealer end. So anything that's happening at the dealer end is pushed back into our own planning. And then there are tons of other examples.
Interesting. So both of you bring out examples where this real-time enterprise not just requires you to do stuff within the organization, but also include the peripheries of your organizations as well, your partners, your suppliers, your vendors. And how critical is that, and what are some of your learnings of having done these initiatives?
I don't agree that they are peripheries. They are a key part of the enterprise. So it's not periphery.
Yeah.
So without your dealers, without your vendors, the organization will not exist. So it's, I think the word that you use, the enterprise or the ecosystem, it's the entire ecosystem which is playing. So coming back to the learnings, I think the first learning, I go back to the first thing that I said. You get all this information. First, you need to decide what information you need and why you need. So that's the biggest learning, because there are a lot of times, even when we initiated, we got certain information and then we felt it was a waste of time to even kind of get that information real time. The second is on the respond part, the response. Or so when you sense something is happening, do you have your own internal mechanisms back into respond to that entire thing? So your own internal processes, internal analysis, the entire thing has to be there, only then it makes sense. Otherwise, it comes in, I won't say garbage in, garbage out. There's something which has come in, but there's nothing which goes out. So it stays over there. Then again, the entire thing is meaningless. The third is, I think it's also a culture change within the organization where people have to go back in their own mindset from being kind of a reactive to a responsive organization, rather than thinking that, for example, many organizations, maybe some parts of our own organization also, there are a lot of people who would respond to their email maybe after 6 hours, 10 hours, maybe next day, maybe after 1 week you'll have 11,000 mails unread in their mailbox. So at one end you have that, and other end you are talking of real-time enterprise. I think they don't really match. So that's where the culture of the organization, that if there's something that you need to respond to, you need to work on that on a real time. So that's one piece. Coming back to the operational thing, I think there are times when all these things look very fancy on PowerPoint slides that yes, real-time enterprise can be there, but then there'll be real-time challenges also. Real-time challenges in the sense maybe there's no connectivity out there. Maybe the speed of the software is so slow that you can't do anything. So all those things then also kind of become issues over there. And that's where the learning comes, and you need to act on these things.
Okay, thank you.
You know, the last point that you brought out really struck a chord. This is messy. You know, one of the advantages of having time is you clean things up. You remove anomalous pieces of data. You know, if you look at a final report that goes to CEO, it's very smooth. There's a message in that. See, what you've done is you've managed to eliminate a lot of outliers. In real time, you don't have the chance to do that. Something comes up and then can send you in a completely different direction if you're not careful. So I think the first real point I have there is that this is a messy process, and you have to better be comfortable engaging with that mess if that is what you as an organization want to do in the real time. Meaning some things will go wrong, some things will go right. Sometimes to Vijay's point, you don't have connectivity, you miss that opportunity. You know, you can't throw the whole thing out. Now you have to have that level of tolerance which says in real time we will not get everything right 100% of the time. And you know, that is unfortunately the problem is that the ecosystem tends to believe that because it's real time, you will get it right. The truth is, even with real time, there will be occasions where because of your speed to react or something, you have not thought of something, you cross the threshold and you don't even know it because you are moving so fast. Some of these caveats. The second one is one point which I had raised before, is that how do you keep your strategy going in the middle of all of this activity? How do you see what is relevant, what is not to that? So I want to grow this market. If I react at every single instance, I'm in trouble. I lost sight of that strategy. At some point, I'm only operating. And for us, at least, I can say that a lot of the importance is in getting that right. Because the events you will forget. In a week, let us say you have some disruptive events. In a week, organization memory is short. In sometimes less than a week, you have forgotten that this outage happened, or this shortage happened, or this issue happened. But how you are progressing against your strategy will come out at the end of the year in, you know, Technicolor on all the newspapers. So you better really concentrate on how you are driving that in real time.
Interesting. So the next obvious question is, you know, how is SAP helping you in this journey? So I can ask you to start.
Yeah, recently I was in SAP Labs talking to them. We have an APO implementation, as I'm sure you're aware, and we were really talking about the future of that with the integrated business planning piece. Very interesting that for the first time we are using the word respond in the SAP environment as opposed to replan or, you know. So the idea would really be that in the earlier world of SAP, if you will, it was a staged process. You plan, some inputs come, you correct, you replan, you readjust. Whereas now you're talking about responding, which I think philosophically is a big shift for SAP as well, to say that, okay, because the world is becoming real time, we don't have that luxury that I used to be able to run MRP once a night and change things. Now that's not enough. I'm almost needing to run it on a continuous basis if I really have to be real time. So obviously I think the thinking is changing. You look at what is happening with HANA, you look at what is happening with some of the other technologies. The technology is also getting much more suited for real time. Now what we have to do, of course, is still figure out to Vijay's point, what we are going to do with that and which pieces we are going to pull. But if you look at, for instance, demand planning, and Vijay is absolutely right, the uncertainty is out there in the field. At the customer level, somebody that says, I know my demand at the customer level is a liar, in today's world particularly. So I think it's just very important that the tools allow you to do that, which is live with that uncertainty and respond to that uncertainty. And I see that directionally that change is there. Now, I still think that's a work in progress. We have to figure out how that is going to help us to respond. But certainly all the indications are that it is built for that world, and how do you get it?
I don't know what to say on this one. If you go back into history, how did SAP start? It was, now we call it ECC. It was R1, R2, R3, SAP R3. What was R? R was real time. So it's not that real time has come now. SAP has been kind of, the way SAP has been positioned even 20, 25 years back when it started with the basic concept of ensuring real time. The only difference that has happened is at that time, the real time was among those 20, 40, 100 odd guys within the organization who were just kind of capturing data. Not responding back onto that, but that was real time capture of data. Only up to that. How it then moved was from capture of data within the sphere of those localized people, now the entire ecosystem. Can I capture that data real time? Can I respond back on that real time? And for that, you need to analyze the entire thing, whether it is S/4HANA, whether it's other technologies, even the technologies, mobile technologies, which are there to connect the entire thing. So how it has changed is that from a real-time data capturing, which SAP used to be till recently, it has become a real-time it has enabled a real-time enterprise where one can really take actions real-time on whatever is happening within your ecosystem. That's how technology has changed over the last many years.
Okay, thanks. So I would like to now open up for questions. I think we've covered all the basics. So if you have any questions, we can take those questions now. So can someone please get a mic here? So the entire day is going to be really interesting as long as you ask questions. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you want. The only limitation is the time. Can someone bring the mic here, please?
Hello, I am Harish. My question is to Vinod. We are talking about real-time enterprises, and I understand technology is available in abundance. My question is specifically on the people and process part of it, whether people, skill set and the processes are there to support the available technology. What is your assessment on that?
I would say that from a mindset or from a people with the younger workforce, there's a lot more openness to real time. There's a lot more real time thinking, there's a lot more attitude in the people. Humans have become that way. But processes and organizations, I think there's a lot of work to do. That is the place where in fact this falls down more often than not, and you end up collecting a lot of information that just stays there and nobody does anything. And partly that's because we are very good at this at an individual level. We process this filtering that we do. Is it relevant to me? Is it not? You know, I get 50 Facebook posts. My son is 6. He gets 50. He sees 50 posts, but he knows the 2 that he's interested in, and he's able to actually focus on those. As organizations, we don't have that kind of personality yet. If you look at who runs our organizations, they're not yet in the same mindset. So the processes that form, the evaluation metrics that happen, how many of us have, performance metrics that are linked with some real-time element? It's still a point in time at the end of the year, how much did you sell? So I think to answer your question, at the people level, the fundamentals are seeping in much quicker. At an organization process levels, not yet. I'd say, in fact, it's the key area that people should be working on.
So I'd like to just add to that question. So what do we do about it, or how do we change that?
You know,
What are your attempts?
a good part of my instincts say that you don't have to, you know, there's no reason for you to go out and change it. That it's a change that will seep through organizations as the DNA of the people who are running these organizations are more in tune with real time. Do you have to do anything particularly to change that? I don't know. There's already enough pressure as it is, I think, you know, on organizations today to not have to take a course on how to respond. But I would say that that is happening, that once you start aligning the performance measures with real-time CSATs and things like that, then the behavior, the policies and all of that will change of the organization as opposed to the individual.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think till the time you really force or try to force changes in the process, beyond a point it will not happen. It has to come from within. The organization has to realize that if it does not respond in real time, this is what is going to happen to the organization. This is how my customer satisfaction, my any sale or anything is being impacted. Once you do that, then people will start working on processes. Till the time we preach them that no, you have to put in the processes in place, it will help you respond better, nothing much would happen.
Thank you. So can someone bring your mic there, please?
My question is to Mr. Sethi. Just looking into the real-time analytics and reporting, we just get confined to only the reporting only to the line of their business. So looking in a wider, broader scale, can the best practices, the learning what has been done from the specific industry, can this kind of real analytics be captured and shared in the wide horizon?
Shared with whom? Shared with whom?
With a wider horizon, like for example, if there is something like a best learning or best practices that's been learned from your own team, then it could be applicable to the same automobile or bicycle industries as the other thing. So the real-time analytics not only for the reporting mechanism, but onto the learning and best practices sharing.
So there are two things to this. One, as you say, real-time analytics and reporting. So if it is reporting, it can't be real-time. So that's one piece. So we're talking of only real-time analytics. So that's one piece. Reporting automatically means that it's a period reporting. It might be 1 day, 2 hours, few hours, whatever. As far as best practices is concerned, my view, most of you may not agree to that, but actually there's nothing called best practice. Each one of us wants to see that sheet of best practices of even when we started SAP implementation 20 years back, we wanted to see best practices, but there's nothing called best, at least I have not come across. It's what I do, what you do, finally is written in some sheet and called as a best practice. Who has certified its best practice? No one knows. Anything that works for my organization and ensures that I am being effective and efficient is my best practice. But for the other guy, it may be the worst practice. So I am not a firm believer of the word best practice. I personally think that we need to constantly challenge each and every process or practice that we do, and then come back as to what suits me the best. So even if it is real-time analytics, one needs to, this is not a one-time thing. Maybe every day there's a learning and then you keep on changing. The second part of your question, which you said that can it be shared among various companies and things, only thing I can tell you from automobile perspective is that the automobile CIOs group, both for the OEMs, the large companies, and for the ACMA, which is the component manufacturers, there's so much of information sharing on IT systems and IT processes that we have that it's kind of full transparency. So that happens. So there's nothing like, no, this is my system or my practice, I can't share. There's enough information sharing that happens. There are a lot of people who we meet very regularly and they come to our office, we go to their offices, and maybe in the market we are competing, but over there what we are discussing is how we are doing from an IT perspective, what learnings have been. For example, we are sharing in this. So that's all. I don't think at that point there is any confidentiality involved. We're not sharing any data. So that does happen, at least in automobile industry, I can say.
I think that also Indus is something that that Indus facilitates to a large extent as well. So any other questions from the audience? Yeah, so can someone get?
Yeah, hi. My question to both of the people here. What we have seen in the past is IT department or IT team is mostly reactive, and business is always ahead in providing the requirement. So in your opinion, what kind of work both of you are doing to help business in a proactive manner?
You just want to start?
Nani, go ahead.
I think there are two parts to your answer. The first part, IT team has been generally reactive. Answer is yes. I tend to agree with you that a lot of cases IT teams have been reactive. And the reason for that has been simple, that there are a lot of times earlier when IT team had no clue of business. So someone would come and tell them that this is how it needs to be done. They'll then respond back, not respond, actually react and do it. What has happened over last few years is that even the profiles of IT teams have changed. If you look at IT teams in most of the organizations, even the people who are there have much more business knowledge. That's one piece. The second piece which has also happened over last few years is that the amount of technology that has seeped into business is very high. Or the dependence of business on technology has gone up very high. So both these factors have ensured that IT teams have really moved in a lot of cases from being reactive to kind of proactive in some cases and kind of at par in various cases. So there are a lot of new technologies coming up. Just to give you an example of, since you said that we should give examples of our organizations, let me give you one from, so what we have done is, if you go back to Auto Expo 14, which is 1.5 years back, from IT perspective, the teams really looked at how marketing people work, the entire thing. And we launched something called a digital showroom. Okay. So this is not a reactive thing. So this is not that someone really wanted in sales marketing that a showroom has to be digital. Or you have a talking character who does sales for you electronically. So these are the kind of things, or maybe in our design. So some of the virtual things that we use or virtual technologies that we use over there, that are not really being reactive, but when we interact with various partners, various people, and come to know about these, we go back into business and tell them that, can you really also do this? And that's where it's not reaction, but more of a collaboration, the first point from Indus perspective, where you collaborate with the business and then say that, okay, it works. So that's how it has changed from being a reactive to more collaborative, I'll say.
I'll just add a couple of points. I think one is really that, one of the nice things about technology and forums like this is that we end up doing a lot of proofs of concept. Now, whenever you do a proof of concept of a technology or of a new way of doing things that has come up, you are being proactive. Nobody from the business ever comes to you and says, let's do a proof of concept on something. Typically, something has come out when tablets came out or something, nobody said, let's give every sales guy a tablet. Somewhere we said, okay, this looks like something that can work there, and in a collaborative way we said, let's put this out in the field and see what happens. And with the way that technology is moving, a lot more the direction is towards, let us see how this is relevant to our stack, how this is relevant to our business, how this is relevant to our community, the ecosystem that we work in. And we'll try it and we'll see. We'll set out some very clear goals, what it needs to achieve before it becomes mainstream. And we'll try it and see. So if I look, many times I feel that my role is more in that direction, which is we'll try it and see, and identifying and picking those bets based on my knowledge of the business to say this is more likely to succeed, both because of the need as well as the culture of the organization and how the processes are. And if these two things work, I'll be there. So, rather than use the proactive, reactive, I would rather use it much more as a push-pull kind of a thing, which says that sometimes the product needs to be there before you buy it. Sometimes you know what you want and you go after it. As long as you approach it collaboratively and as long as you are doing from a process the right things, I think it really doesn't matter. These are labels too.
So I'd just like to add to what both of them have said. I know of organizations which have actually gone to the extent that the IT team actually does behavioral research before actually suggesting a solution for a particular problem that business has come to them. And also goes to the extent that while doing the behavioral research, they have identified something that actually the business doesn't know that they are doing as well. And and there are organizations which are willing to share this approach with other fellow Indus members as well. So we have an example of that on the 16th of next week, this month, which is next Friday. We have a session in Mumbai where Asian Paints is going to share how they do the behavioral research and how that has actually led them to identifying behaviors that the business were not even aware that they are exhibiting, and what that has an impact on their business. So lots of stuff happening on that area as well. So any other questions? Maybe we can take one last question if there is someone who has a question. Yeah, someone there raised their hand, so at the end, far end. No? Okay, so there is someone, is it? Okay, so then if there is, no. Okay, so if there is nothing else, I would like to ask you to maybe, sum it up, and we can move to the next topic. Sure.
Yeah, I think, certainly the real time and we talked, I think, a lot about the behavioral need and the way that patterns are shifting to drive an attitude for real time, a liking, if you will, for real time behavior that is encouraging real time. And, that is coming in confluence with technologies that are actually capable of feeding that beast, and therefore you have an emphasis on real time. I think we also talked a lot about what are the caveats that you shouldn't go indiscriminately behind real time, and you need to know what you are doing, why you are doing what you are doing in this place, because it is so easy, to go out and do a lot of things without really understanding what the value is to the organizations. I think one of the things that I keep on rattling about is really how that is aligned with your strategy and how that is actually helping you to achieve what you want to achieve as a company, not just, for the pleasure of doing it. And certainly I think, it's a journey. There's going to be a lot more emphasis. And I think to the question that I was asked, once organizations fall in line, once processes start aligning themselves to this, then it will be business as usual. Then real-time organizations will become business as usual, and I don't think we're very far from that. I think, you could count it in a single-digit number of years before we are actually organizationally structured to be real-time organizations.
Yeah, I think looking at the changing dynamics and expectations of consumers, of the society in general, the need for each one of us to ensure that our enterprises become real-time is paramount. So it's not a question that whether we should be a real-time enterprise or not, but I think the question is that what all should be real-time and how it should work. In this entire thing, we need to really focus on ensuring that our organizational zone mindset, the internal processes that the organization has, and what we need to do with that real-time information, that needs to be very, very clear. Otherwise, it could end up in disaster.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for taking time and talking to us today. I'm sure they'll be around for some more time. So if you have anything that you want to connect back, you can please do that.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.